All right, guys, welcome to Beyond the Muscle. I'm excited to welcome our next guest, Dean Nolan. So, Dean is a natural bodybuilder and coach, and yeah, he may hold the record for the most shows competed for a natural bodybuilder in one season. So, Dean competed in 6 countries last year and
Yeah,
7 shows, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, pretty cool record that. So, yeah, how are
yeah.
things
So
going, Dean? How are things?
yeah, yeah, they're really, really good, really good. Training's going well. Business coach, everything's going well. But just to that point, so I did six. I've not contacted the Guinness Book of Records yet, but yeah, seven shows in 6 different countries last year,
Yeah.
and I think that might be a record. It might not be, but I think it might be. But and I saw a weird. This just popped into my mind, but a weird record hit the other day. I don't even know how I got showed this or where it came from, but a guy ran 100 meters backwards in
Right.
heels, and he
Wow.
broke the world record. So I'm thinking if there's a world record for that, there might be
Yeah.
one for competing abroad. Anyway, moving on. Yeah,
You might need to contact Guinness and yeah, get
yeah,
yourself in there.
yeah. I'll get in that book definitely. I think.
Yeah, so I'd like to kind of delve into where it all began for you, but
Mhm.
yeah, like myself, I had a pretty full-on season last year. It's like a lot of listeners will know, it's my comeback year, so I haven't competed for 9 years. Made a comeback and did 5 shows, and yeah, it was a pretty full-on season. Obviously, you competed in 7 shows last year. What
Yeah.
was your reason for wanting to do so many shows?
I've always so similar to you. I've been competing since 20. My first show was in 2014.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Mm.
Back then, I wasn't really on social media or anything, but yeah. So like it was like my 10th. Yeah, last year was kind of like the 10th year anniversary. I'd always wanted to compete abroad, and I have got some like family connections and things abroad. So I was like, if I ever get the opportunity to do it, then I'll try and do it. And I did in 2020. Obviously, COVID happened. In 2020, I did have a plan to maybe do a show abroad, but obviously it never came to fruition.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I could speak about maybe because 6 different countries. I've got somewhat of a loose or maybe close connection in each one.
Wow.
So it was kind of cherry picking those shows based on those reasons, really. So I
Yeah.
can maybe go through the competitions I did, and then maybe the reasons why I did each
Yeah,
one.
do actually. Yeah, I'd like to hear.
So season opened up in June, and I did 2 competitions in Malaysia.
Mm.
One with the WNBF, and one which was a NPC natural show.
It was
um,
natural, right? Yeah. So
yeah,
I
I
was
mean,
looking back for your history. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
yeah, and to be fair, I was making a joke then, but if this genuinely was a natural show, we did
Yeah,
every guy was urine tested. You know, it was the full thing where the guy was in the toilet watching us do it, and so on and
yeah,
so
yeah.
forth. So, which is a bit of a weird job, anyway. So my grandma was Malaysian. She moved over to the UK, but that's kind of the connection there. I've
Yeah.
got family and things over there. So yeah, it was kind of like a thing of always wanting to go and compete over there. So yeah, they were the Malaysia shows, and as I said,
Mm.
they were June. The next show I did was and I did well in most shows. I got second in all categories. I got second, which was open bodybuilding. And then in the NPC show, I did open bodybuilding and the classic bodybuilding. And I'm not a
Yeah.
classic bodybuilder, but
Hmm.
I went in there not knowing what to expect, and how like legit it was going to be. So I
Mm.
thought if everyone's going to be massive, then I'll try the classic class. Just anyway. So
Yeah.
then, like I said, they went really well, and I wasn't intentionally because the main shows I was looking at were in October. Intentionally, I wasn't 100% on for those shows from a
Yeah.
condition point of view. But luckily, and one of the judges said to me, this judged me a couple of times last year, and he said his favorite look was those opening shows, even though my
Okay.
condition was yeah like
Yeah.
much in my opinion much far out from what it should be for to step onto a stage. But um, next show I did was the BNBF Northern in
Mm.
August in Manchester, and I got fourth in the middleweight class there. But the Northern, I don't know if you saw the recent Northern.
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but the standards crazy. And they
Yeah.
get a lot of German competitors come over because German competitors have the I think it's called the GNBF or something
Yeah.
on the lines, the national competition, and it's usually about 4 weeks before the BNBF Northern.
Right.
The Northern's quite an easy venue to get to because Manchester's an international airport, so it's quite accessible. So they
Mm.
essentially come over here to do a warm up show because they
Right.
haven't got many shows over there.
I
So
see.
long story short, I got beat by
Mm.
3 Germans, so I was the highest place in Brit, but
Interesting.
the
I never
Germans.
knew that. Wow.
Yeah. So moving on, and this is like a long ordeal. So next show was the WMBF Ireland.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my granddad is Irish, so another like family connection there. Where I was like, I can do the Ireland show, and
Mm.
it just conveniently it worked out logistically. It worked out really well because I could do the Ireland show, and then within 6 weeks I could then do the WMBF Taiwan, and Singapore.
Hmm.
And the benefit there being, if you do with the WMBF, when you do the lie detector test,
Mm.
it's valid for 6 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it just meant when I went over to Taiwan and Singapore, with all the difficulties of traveling anyway, I wouldn't have to worry about like managing doing the lie detector test as well as the
Hmm.
show. So
Was it still a German company doing all the lie detector stuff?
yeah, he was European. So yeah, I presume maybe German. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, same.
Uh,
Yeah,
and
interesting.
every lie detector you might have this experience. Every lie detector test I've done is different.
Hmm.
Even with the WMBF, but I've done some before as well with a like UK for example.
Yeah.
And like every set of questions is different. And so even with the WMBF, I'll give you this example.
Mm.
When I did the Malaysian show, it was more of a traditional one. Everything was the same in terms of you have the band around your waist and
Hmm.
you have the like the pulse on your, I think it's your finger and thumb from memory.
Yeah.
And then WMBF Malaysia was being asked questions and then obviously managing responses, being
Hmm.
asked questions by a human. The German one was he sat in a room, but it was a computer asking him questions.
Yeah, I had the
Did
same
you?
thing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, I thought, yeah, yeah. Anyway, so that was the main, not the main reason. One of the benefits of doing it. And
Mm.
then to finish this off, last three shows I did in October was Taiwan, Vietnam, and Singapore. And
Yeah,
my wife is Taiwanese, so we go over every October anyway to see a family. So it just naturally made sense.
yeah, yeah.
The My younger brother lives in Vietnam. He's a teacher over there, so it was like a convenient location to see him for a bit and also do a show as you do.
Mm.
And then Singapore, I've got a good friend in Singapore, and that was the end of the season. So
Yeah.
rounded after that show.
Oh,
So yeah, apologies, Anthony. That was a long-winded answer there,
no,
but
that's amazing. I'm curious, like logistically, how was it planning everything? Because there's so much that a lot of people who haven't competed won't know. There's so much that goes into it, like planning, like
yeah,
tanning, polygraph testing, all of these little bits, like getting food, booking hotels.
yeah.
How was it logistically planning such a busy season?
Luckily, I'm quite a what would you say? Attention to detail is probably a strong point for me. So I could, and of course, competing in 2014. So I've done. This was my fourth season, I think, or fifth season of
Okay.
actually stepping on stage. So
Yeah.
what I'd say is like from the get go, if it's your first season competing, definitely. Well, I wouldn't recommend competing abroad with
Yeah. Yeah.
managing those variables. But and also like you say, there's so many logistically. It's such a potential like time zone differences, the
Mm.
temperature differences, humidity, things like that. There's like a massive like slip up areas or like nightmares there. So and food availability. So it I did a lot of, and it's a tricky one because there's only so much you can prepare for.
Mm.
So I did a lot of preparation in advance.
Yeah.
Always, for example, booking Airbnbs that had like kitchen facilities.
Yeah.
That's an obvious one, but doing that and making sure they had aircon as well because
Mhm.
obviously it's a lot warmer over there.
Mm.
And then doing a bit of like recce before you go over there to see what supermarkets are in the area,
Mhm.
and even things like whether they use like Grab or what's the one called? Um, we use it in this country, Uber, sorry.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
some countries use Uber, some countries use Grab.
Mm.
What I would say is in every, I would say, yeah, every country, Ireland being an exception because it was only over the water, really. In every country, it was quite convenient. For example, when I was doing my food shopping, I
Mm.
could get it delivered using like the Uber or the Grab service.
Right. Right. That's
Um,
handy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah. Just logistically, so many variables, and you've just got to, I think, go in there with the reassurance of not trying to stress or not trying to perfect every single one, but
Mm.
knowing that you're going to do the best that you can do, and then
Mhm.
when things get thrown at you, when something slips up, you can kind of tackle that head on, then, or like tackle it when it comes.
Yeah, interesting. That reminds me of like it's funny actually because I've had AJ Morris at the beginning when I started this podcast and Eric Helms both said a similar thing, and it's like to be a good bodybuilder you have to have like a bit of an obsessive nature, but also the ability to kind of when things get too much, kind of relax a little bit. And you definitely seem to fit that mold, and I think it helps. Definitely helps there. For me, I was kind of lucky because my wife, she's really good at organizing stuff, and she was great at like because for my first two shows, I had about I think 13 or 14 like family and friends come to see me, and
Yeah,
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 she had to book like multiple tickets, and the WNBF Supernaturals was so busy. So for her, I think I had 9 or 10 people come to that. She found it
mhm.
really difficult to like book such a large group of people. But yeah, I'm lucky that she was in my corner, kind of dealing with all that kind of stuff in the
Yeah.
background. But
And have you found it's a skill that's got better over time? So, for example, maybe in your first season, it was like you tried to perfect it. This was certainly my experience. Tried to like perfect everything, and then as you've grown, you've gotten a little bit more flexible in that regard.
Yeah, but I'd say so, but I think a lot of that is not because I've done multiple seasons, because I'm not very experienced. I think it's more the fact that I'm older now. I'm 41.
Mm.
I was 31 when I first competed, and I'm
Yeah,
just a bit more mature. And bodybuilding, whilst I love bodybuilding, I'm really happy I'm back in it. It's not like the most important thing in the world for me now.
yeah,
So because of that, and just a bit of extra maturity, I think
yeah.
I can be a bit more pragmatic and like relaxed about things, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas before in 2015 when I first done, like I was so focused on being the best. That's all I cared about. And yeah, I think with that comes a lot of added pressure. And
Mhm.
yeah, if you don't have elite top level genetics, it can be too much. I think it can be too much anyway to put that much pressure on yourself.
Yeah, and ironically, as you kind of alluded to, it's um, when you can drop that pressure and not put as much pressure on yourself,
Mm.
I find anyway that I can perform better as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Certainly when it comes to like to managing, like for example, show day and the peak week variables, for example.
mm. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that completely. Is that because and something else you mentioned on a few of your posts was like, I think it might be one of your early ones in 2017. I think you mentioned where your physique started to look tired by the end of the season.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, I certainly had that as well. But my physique kind of peaked at the probably the supernaturals last year when I didn't win it, but it was probably my best look. And it was
yeah.
when I was my most relaxed. I just finished second in the weekend before, and I really wanted to win that show. But the pressure was off. I went into the supernaturals not with no expectations, just to kind of have some fun really. And
Mhm.
because of that, the pressure was off, and I brought probably my best look to the stage. So
Yeah.
yeah, talking to that point actually, because you did a lot of shows last year. Would you say your best look was in the middle of the year, at the end? Where was the best for
So
you?
I feel like my best look was the WMBF Ireland,
Right.
which was the in context so that was the beginning of September. So
Mm,
my season technically started on the end of June,
mm.
although I wasn't ready condition wise, and then ended at the end of October.
Okay, so
Um,
midway through, then your best potentially.
yeah, I mean, the Island show was a funny one because I didn't do a traditional peak week for that show
Right.
because it came. I think it was 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks after the BNBF Northern, but at the time, I was dealing with a long story short here is my mum went in for an operation and she had a couple of complications with the operation, so she was on like life support at the time.
Well,
So it was really that particular week. It was really touch and go whether I was even going to do the show. Of
yeah.
course, being organised, everything, the flights, the hotel, and so on, that was all booked months in advance. Sorry. So I still went into the week planning to do the show, but also with the knowledge that right, we might not do it. So
Mm,
Daz or Darren, Darren's my coach, so um, we put a plan in place for that week to not have a traditional peak week.
hmm.
We deload a little bit from training, and
Yeah.
if like as we progressed closer to the show, we did have a couple of higher carb days, but nothing again like no like carb deplete or carb load. And
Mm,
ironically, to your point before, that was probably my best look, and it was
right.
also in a way the least stressed I was, even though I was very much stressed outside of bodybuilding, but the least stressed
Mm,
I was for a show because my mind was like completely elsewhere.
yeah.
Um, and also I think just my and the October shows I did, I think I looked so in terms of managing the variables when you're traveling abroad, what I found was I competed in Taiwan at the beginning of October, and then 4 weeks later, end of October, was the WMBF Singapore, and
Mm,
my scale weight was creeping up a little bit, but my look got drastically worse between my three shows, and
right. Okay.
I think it was just down to the heat, humidity, like
Yeah.
the temperature over there, and my body just not reacting well to it because I'd maybe put on like 1 kg in scale weight,
Hmm.
but when I looked at my physique, like all like any lines or anything, any like separation in my glutes and hamstrings had gone. Um,
Mm,
midsection looked like really blurry, and I was still doing everything from like an expenditure point of view, a nutrition point of view.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, just the body not climatizing to that weather.
That's interesting.
Great.
It's funny
Yeah.
actually you mention that because I've got a few PT clients recently who have had when the weather was hotter, like a few months back, like big spikes in skull weight, and they were asking me, "Is there a correlation between hot weather and maybe water retention?" I said, "Oh,
Mm,
interesting. I'm not too sure what the answer is
yeah.
to that, but yeah, I know when I'm really hot, I get very vascular, but maybe a bit more watery
Yeah.
as well. So potentially,
Mm.
that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and and talking about the look, my
Mm.
least favorite look last year, which should have been, on paper, it should have been the best, was Singapore, the last show I did.
Last show, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I just, I went. it's just one of those things where I felt like I looked about 10 weeks out, and maybe
Right.
a little bit that would have been in my head. But when I have a side by side pictures, I can see like there's just no like glutes, hamstrings, and midsection.
Hmm.
I'd lost all that kind of like detail and separation.
What do you
Uh,
think the
it,
reason for that was?
Again, the weather,
That was, oh,
mainly
sorry,
the
that was
weather.
the weather. Yeah,
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 yeah.
sure.
And it looked like I'd just been like binging after the show, which,
Right, right.
but yeah. I think the weather.
Yeah, that's so yeah, it's annoying. That's interesting actually. Not something I've heard talked about much at all.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had a similar situation where my best look was yeah definitely in the middle, but for different reasons. I was completely peeled by the end, but I didn't look as lean because of yeah. I mean, I had a stomach bug a week before my last show, which
Yeah,
yeah, which didn't really help. But I think for me, I know for next time I can't stay at single digit body fat for that long. You know, for me, I
mhm.
was. I was kind of stage lean from like June all the way through, or just say like July to October, and that for me
Mm.
that's too long. So need
Yeah,
to
I
plan
think so.
better.
And as you said, in 2017, I had that experience because I did stupidly in 2017 I did my first show in March, and I did my
Mm.
last show in October,
Oh wow, okay.
and
Yeah,
I stayed within like 3 or 4 kg throughout that whole period.
yeah.
And yeah, so my best look that year was probably the UK DFBA Northern qualifier,
Mm.
which was at some time in August from memory, and then the finals were at the end of October. And
Hmm.
yeah, I just like I managed to stay in condition,
Yeah,
but I just feel like I'd dropped muscle essentially, and I looked like I say the physique looked tired towards the end for sure.
yeah. It's a shape versus
Mm.
condition kind of battle, isn't it? I think, and yeah. There's digging too deep will you lose some of that structure. I find some of the
Yeah,
nice
definitely,
lines in
definitely.
the shape. So yeah, going back to where it all began for you, Dean. So I've talked about
Mhm,
my journey to the stage before, and it's interesting. Like since starting this podcast, it's made
mhm,
me think about my own journey like, in a deeper way than I had like previously. I was
mhm.
like a skinny 17-year-old kid who just wanted to get like female attention and to get muscly like every boy, every guy does.
Yeah, yeah,
But then, yeah, I saw this transformation, this guy called Anthony Ellis, this Body for Life transformation.
yeah. Mhm.
And he did this like 12-week transformation where he looked like totally different. And yeah, digging into what he did to achieve that kind of led me into weight training because he was doing a lot of the things that we would do now, like high protein diet, lifting heavy weights, training close to failure.
Yeah.
And then yeah, alongside that, it was like my uncle bought me this book on fantasy art, and obviously those guys are all very, very muscular
Mhm.
guys, you know, fighting these like beasts and dragons and that. And I thought, I'm gonna look like that. It's a really kind of
Yeah.
appealing look to me. And I've had like a background in art as well. So yeah,
Mhm.
looking back now, there are multiple factors at play that eventually led me to step on stage in
Mhm.
bodybuilding. And it's interesting. Everyone's story is totally different. Like some people get into it for sport, some
Yeah.
people like me just for vanity reasons, but then with other things intertwined into that.
Yeah.
What got you into bodybuilding or into lifting and then bodybuilding?
Mine's somewhat similar for sure, and I'm
Right,
gonna pull some out in a minute, which is gonna be embarrassing. But
right.
so when I was 16, I used to do judo. I was always quite sporty as a kid. Football, field hockey, judo were the main three sports, and then like a bit of running, like mid distance running. And when I turned 16, so I was always pretty good in judo. I was always a little bit heavy for my weight.
Right.
I always say I've got like dance bones. Like when I go in the water, I sink straight down to the bottom.
Mm,
But when I went into from the juniors to the adult classes, I was like, everyone. I was like maybe 9, 10 stone, maybe when I was 16, and
mm.
everyone was like a police officer, a bouncer, cage fighter, and I was just getting thrown around everywhere. So
Right, right.
luckily, my best mate, his dad was a weightlifter, and he owned a gym like
Mm,
literally just around the corner from a house, and it was really good time, and it opened up maybe about 3, 4 months before I was 16. So when I turned 16, I started going to the gym with him, and
mm.
that's what gave me the bug of training. And I think because of the type of person I really like routine,
Yeah,
consistency all
yeah.
the time. So
Mm,
like somebody telling me that right, 5 days a week you're gonna train, you're gonna do
hmm.
these movements, and like giving it to me in like a regimented fashion. I was like, yeah, duck to water type thing. I'm straight away do it. But also similar. So I guess the primary approximate reason was trying to put on muscle for judo, just
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
compete, like be able to train with adults without getting like flung across the floor. Similar to you, so a lot of my heroes growing up were not necessarily heroes, but I used to watch a lot of like. So I'm 36 now, so
Mm,
when I was growing up, Rocky films,
yeah,
Rambo,
yeah.
Arnie, those were really popular.
I
So
forgot
like,
to mention those. Yeah, huge
yeah, yeah.
inspirations for me too. Yeah, yeah.
So I think if you've watched those films in the 80s, you kind of 80s and 90s, I should say. Um, you think like, right, okay, that's what rightly or wrongly, like that's what a man could look like, blah blah blah. And similar, like on the art front. So I was a big fan of anime, and particularly Dragon Ball Z when I was growing up.
Mm,
And I did art in GCSE, and like
yeah,
me and my mate, we would just sit there and draw like the Dragon Ball Z characters.
yeah,
So like
nice.
similar to yours, where they just I
Oh,
don't know if you can see
nice.
them,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Oh, really cool.
yeah, not quite. I won't get them all out, but not
Yeah,
quite your
oh, that's
kind of.
really cool.
But talking about the fantasy art, so
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Dragon Ball Z, they are like very very muscular.
yeah.
So you kind of idolize that sort of physique as well. Like
Hmm.
it was completely subconscious,
Mm,
but I was like again like it's just like all these little things where like that's what I want to look like when I'm older.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, that was the journey into it really, and then
interesting.
throughout throughout the years, I continued doing judo until I was like early 20s, and I was picking up a lot of injuries because it's contact sport and whatnot. So eventually the other sports I was doing fell by the wayside, and that's when in 2014 really that's when I started really prioritizing bodybuilding and
Yeah,
to do the first show.
yeah, yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a really interesting story. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Going back to Dragon Ball Z, there, it's I've only just got into it. 2024. A good
Mm.
friend of mine got me into watching the original Dragon Ball, and now me
Ah,
and Jamie are onto Dragon Ball Z, and we're about halfway through. We still haven't completed it because there are so many
yeah,
episodes. Because it's so popular with bodybuilders, and yeah,
yeah,
I love the art style. Like Toriyama's art style is so cool. So we've
yeah,
done
yeah,
quite a few drawings, and my son is only 8, but it's great to get him into artwork and yeah, into
yeah.
that kind
No,
of
that's
stuff.
amazing,
But I
and
know it's very popular with bodybuilders.
it's very good. I think it's very good if you've got all of his episodes still to watch.
Yeah,
I'd like to be in that position again. So yeah.
really, yeah, yeah. No, it's cool. Yeah, it's 'cause I know they've done quite a few now. And going back to judo, I guess because it's
Mhm,
funny, I had Charlie Cuthbert on. He used to do judo when he was younger
mhm,
as well, and doesn't do it anymore. And my son, he's recently stopped, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, and it's funny actually because I was interested in doing judo. I was watching my son do it and thinking
mhm.
that looks fun, and I might try doing some like novice beginner classes. But then I thought, no, I need to get back into bodybuilding. That's my calling. But when was the last time you did any judo?
Probably 2021, 22, maybe.
Oh, not
And
too long ago.
I do want to pick it back up, but at the same
Mm.
time, and the injury risk there is quite high. And even if it's not, even if you don't get a serious injury, it's
Hmm.
just like you'll pick up something which is enough to affect your training week. And then
Mm.
like it's very difficult to do that concurrently, I think, with
Yeah,
it, if you're trying to if you've got aspirations to step back on stage,
yeah,
which I have as well. So I think it's like for now I'm like, right, okay, I'll do judo, like maybe the over 60s or something. I'll
yeah,
get
yeah.
back. We'll see. We'll
It's
see.
That's funny. Yeah, I've had to do the same with running. So I'm definitely not built for running at all. I've got short legs and just not the frame for running. However, I was doing a lot after like in the COVID era, and then up
Mhm.
to like 2023 even. I was doing a lot of running, but yeah, for me, I need to prioritize bodybuilding over running. So I'm willing to make that sacrifice. And another
Yeah.
one is I used to do a lot of rock climbing, but that's
Mhm.
I was getting injured a lot of the time with
Mhm.
that as
Mhm.
well. But yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, Dragon Ball Z. It's just so popular bodybuilders. I was completely yeah. I love the show. It's great.
Yeah, and I can see you're in the Vanquish Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, one of the new ones. Yeah, I'm a sucker for all their
Like
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
I've not bought any Dragon Ball Z attire yet, but I'm like
Mm,
it's I feel like 10 years ago or something, people really missed a trick, not realizing like how big it was going to be to make
mm,
like Dragon Ball Z inspired attire and whatnot. But yeah,
yeah,
I'm glad it's taken off nowadays anyway.
yeah, yeah. That seems quite big now.
Mhm,
So yeah, another thing I wanted to chat about, Dean, was this tweet. So you did
mhm,
a you made a really cool response to this tweet, and I've actually got it on my notes here because I think it's important that the listeners actually know what it said. And your response was very well put, very eloquent, but
mhm,
we'll delve into that in a little bit. So the actual tweet from this, I believe, Enhanced Bodybuilder said, "Why does every natty feel the need to announce it to the entire world? Bro, no one cares that you're natty." And yeah, like I said, your response was very well thought out and put
mhm,
out. And you alluded to the fact that there's a community aspect to bodybuilding, which
mhm,
is very big. And also, you wanted to make the distinction between like expectations and what you can expect with if you go down the enhanced route versus the natural route.
mhm, mhm.
And yeah, I mentioned in response to like your screenshotting this that I think a lot of older guys who do go down that route probably end up regretting it and just dig
Mhm.
their heels in further because yeah, I guess there's no going back once you've made that
Yeah.
decision. But yeah, I thought it was really well put and an important point. So, but can you elaborate on your response to that tweet?
Yeah, we can definitely expand on this a bit. So, and actually, to set the context of scene a little bit here. So, when something I've not mentioned is when I was, how old was I? 22, 23. in 2012. My best friend whose dad owned a gym.
Mm.
Unfortunately, his dad passed away in 2012,
Right.
and we him and I we always kind of joked about one day we'll own a gym together, or we'll open a gym.
Mm.
And at that time, so he inherited the gym from his dad, and he wasn't sure because he was working full time. He had a young family and things, so he wasn't sure if he could take it on, do it himself. So I said, I'll put an investment in. We'll do it together, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. And we were just very much we ran it for 4.5 years,
Right.
and we were very much like just two kids with a dream. Just like somehow
Mm.
got this gym, and we learned a lot of lessons along the way. So
Mm.
one thing, so the hat that I had on when I was making that post is one thing that happened quite often is in this. So I live in a small town in North Wales. We had members quite often who would come into a gym that were like 16 years old. They'd never actually been to a gym before. Some of them had maybe got some equipment at home and they were training at home in a garage. Some of them hadn't even got equipment at home and they were saying, I've done my first cycle, or I've been on gear, I've done cycles, blah, blah, blah. And they were being
Wow.
open about like what they've been doing in the past. And again, they were only 16 and
Yeah.
either had only just lifted weights or not even lifted weights. And they kind of,
Crazy.
their mentality was like, if you go to a gym, and I don't know whether like this might be location dependent to an extent, but if you go to a gym, you take gear, you take steroids, and it's
Mm.
just like those two things are synonymous, they go hand in hand. And when I, especially from having that experience, like one of the big like not necessarily deterrents, but one of the things that I really want to kind of address is like people who are like anything like 14 to 21
Mm.
going on cycle without having any experience at all, like very
Mm.
little experience. I think that's a really really damaging thing. So, and you can probably speak to this. When I first went to a gym when I was 16, and maybe yourself when you were 17,
Mm.
nobody spoke about it at all. Social
Mm.
media back then, showing my age, but social media didn't exist. We had like MySpace and stuff, but
Yeah.
um, it was very, very, very much a taboo topic. And I was very naive. Like Ronnie Coleman, when I was 16, 17, I turned to my mate and I was like, do you think Ronnie Coleman's natural? And he was just
Mhm.
like, Dean, come on. And,
Yeah.
but that's what I thought, I just thought it was possible, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So yeah, long story short, there is I feel like nowadays, social media has definitely had a big like hand to play in this.
Mm.
People being more open about it, which on one hand is good, but also can be negative as well.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I feel like um, when you're that age, like 14, 21, let's say,
Yeah.
you're very, very impressionable. And I think if you see the wrong things, if the wrong person promotes the wrong things, you take that in. It's
Mhm.
very easy. Like whether it's your friends, local friends, and whatnot, person you listen to, or what you see on social media. And I really wanted to kind of address that really as
Yeah.
like one of the negative things. And yeah, like expanding on the post, there is, and I think social media does this where it kind of encourages people to be really divisive and
Yeah.
confrontational and very much like polarizing, where you have to like be in a tribe or like pick a
Mhm.
side. So the guys turn it into like naturals versus enhanced.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to address that point as well because for the majority of people, whether you're natural or enhanced, like we've got so much more in common than not.
Mm.
Um, and then, as I kind of said in the post, and I'm trying to think of a better analogy, but when if you say you're a natural bodybuilder, so in my bio it says natural bodybuilder,
Mhm.
it's kind of me just signaling in a way that you would do with a sports team, like I play for or I support this sports team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like just a signal. Then, if somebody comes across your page, they're going to go, oh, "Okay, I'm also a natural bodybuilder. I'm going to
Yeah.
relate to this guy," and you can create connections. And in the
Mm.
same way that you and I have, or like so many countless people on social
Mm.
media, because we've kind of got that shared interest.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm going around the houses a little bit here, but um, trying to think of a closing point where really, but yeah, just essentially just trying to without, and I'm being careful with the words that I'm using now because I never want to try and demonize people's decision making. But going back to your point, I do think that's a massive issue. People maybe going on cycle in the younger years when
Yeah.
they're more like less likely to what's the word, like less risk averse, let's say, and then it does become potentially a permanent thing. And certainly,
Mhm.
again, in my time when I was running the gym, there were so many conversations I had with people who were pretty much then assigned to being on cycle for life because
Yeah.
whenever they come off it, they just didn't feel great, like at all.
Mhm.
They couldn't build any muscle. They had no motivation to go to the gym. So then it was just like for them, it's like, right, I've always got to be on cycle now, or doing like nowadays what TRT or hormone replacement therapy is.
Yeah. And you made some amazing points there. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's so true. Kind of social media does encourage people to fit into
Mhm.
boxes. You have to pick a camp. It's like and obviously become area where that's become extreme and just totally
Yeah,
ridiculous. Where yeah, there's no nuance. You have to fit into this certain camp.
yeah,
You can't agree with what a bit of what one person says and then disagree with something. You have to ascribe to all of their views. And yeah, it's the same with social media, and it's obviously got worse. But it was the same when I was in it, and because I've always been someone who's been an advocate of flexible dieting, like what was IIFYM back in the day,
yeah.
and
I saw some early YouTube videos on it. Yeah.
yeah, and it's for me it's worked. And it's almost in a response to the clean eating
Hmm.
craze of that took off beforehand. But
Yeah.
even then, that becomes too extreme. People creating these elaborate, cheat meals, but somehow trying to fit it into their macros at the
Hmm.
expense of any nutritional value and anything like that. So yeah, and even looking back, I was perhaps a bit too much in that kind of if it fits your macros tribe
Hmm.
or camp. But yeah, you made a really good point. I hadn't really considered that. And yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. There are enhanced people who put out amazing information that can, yeah, you can get on well with those guys. Just you can get on well with someone who's natural as well. So yeah,
and what
really good
one
point.
thing I kept, so I scrolled through what motivated me or inspired me to make that post. When I was scrolling through the comments, you could see, obviously, and again, not demonizing these guys, these assisted guys. And one comment which I saw reoccurring quite often was that, along the lines of like paraphrasing here a little bit, but everyone who says they're natural isn't natural anyway.
Right.
And I'm just like, how can you be that like skeptical or
Mm,
whatever it might be? But there are definitely, and this is another problem with social media because the extremes are the things that get
yes.
attentions or not attentions, but there are definitely many examples, more examples than what's ideal or yeah ideal, let's say, of people who are clearly, I'm not going to name them, but clearly not natural who say they're natural. I'll just put it that way. And like
Yeah,
people
yeah.
can, yeah, we've all got images in our mind of
I
who
know
they
some of the
may be.
people you're talking
Yeah,
about for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
And then I think these people think that that then represents everybody, and so
Mm,
it's definitely a bad thing. But everybody who says they're natural,
mm,
that's what they are, and they're not really natural anyway. And
mm.
they haven't got their eyes open to the fact that there's natural federations. I mean, natural federations have genuine like testing and like
Yeah,
ways
yeah.
to weed out if somebody is natural or not.
Mm.
And when I was, and I don't necessarily blame it. When I was 20 in 2014 when I first competed, I didn't know there was any natural federations.
Right,
I
right.
was the same. I thought back then I thought it was either like people in the gym. And again, this is my own fault for having like an echo chamber and not social media wasn't what it was, but yeah, not having like it like really broadening my horizon. Um,
Mm.
but I thought even people that competed that say the natural, same thing. They say the natural, but they're not natural. Things like
Yeah,
that. But luckily, after my first season, I got introduced to actual natural bodybuilding. There was a
yeah,
local
yeah.
bodybuilder called Daz Cooper who was
I know.
competing in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
NBA. Yeah. So luckily, I got introduced to him, and I was like, "Oh, there's actually natural bodybuilding." He
Mm.
took me along to a couple of posing clubs for the BNBF, and that sparked the journey then into actually natural bodybuilding,
Mm.
which I'm definitely grateful for because
Mm.
obviously I could have gone down a different path down that way as well.
Yeah.
And there was something I wanted to say in terms of I've lost it now. Something that you said. Anyway, I've lost it. I've lost it.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. It might come back. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, it's funny the whole going on gear thing because I've heard someone say in a podcast recently that every natural bodybuilder has considered it at some stage, but I definitely haven't. Like I knew straight from the very start that I was never going to go down that enhanced
Hmm.
route. I kind of, yeah, for me it wasn't worth the risk, and yeah, I knew quite early on that whilst I've got good genetics,
Hmm.
they're not the best. They're not elite genetics. So yeah, I'm not going to become Mr. Olympia. So yeah, let's just stay natural and see
Yeah.
how far I can take it. But is
Yeah.
it is it ever crossed your mind at all?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say, and maybe this is like influenced by the American space is very popular, and you know, I'm not I'm not completely shut down to the idea when I get older. And I say when I get older, I already feel like I'm older, but when I get older, if I get to a point where I feel like my quality of life is very poor, or
Yeah,
like if I wake up one day and I've got like zero motivation to do anything, so these are kind of the symptoms that people talk about, but
yeah,
then go on to hormone replacement therapy
yeah.
(TRT), and again this is so much more popular in the US. Without going into too much detail, I know of people personally who you wouldn't like for non training reasons, non bodybuilding reasons, although we do happen to train, they're taking TRT hormone replacement therapy
Hmm.
and they've gone about it in a way which is not not unheard of, but it would be very, very rare, I think, in this country. Whereas
Okay.
in America, it's very, very accepted, where we literally just because different healthcare system.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and I suppose there's some, without going into politics here, there's some like they've maybe got some like agenda or not agenda, but they've got some motivation to incentive, let's say, because they
Yeah.
have to pay for the medication to push certain medication. But anyway, they're in like their 20s, maybe early 30s, and they go on
Mm.
therapy, hormone replacement therapy,
Hmm.
prescribed by a doctor. Whereas in the UK, I don't know many people, unless they've got a history of using
Yeah.
anabolics, who are doing something similar to that. But anyway, going back to it, I know, similar to you, I'm not gonna, as a bodybuilder, as much I'm optimistic. I'm gonna improve. I'm gonna continue to improve. Maybe I'll look
Hmm.
competitive one day. But I've got quite short legs. I've got a couple of injuries which are holding me back a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I've got quite a long torso and a wide waist. So like,
Hmm.
there's not like, for example, my front double bicep, rear double bicep not as much, but front double bicep, front relaxed. They're not great poses for me because
Right.
my lat insertions are not low enough in proportion to where my waist is. So, and from that side of things, I can't justify going on the enhanced route
Yeah.
and all the potential negatives and side effects that you're going to get going down that route to then not really be able to take it anywhere. So that's probably similar to yourself, but
Hmm.
equally, maybe in my 50s, 60s,
Hmm.
I don't really know. Really, I'm just saying this, but maybe in my 50s, 60s, if I got to a point where something like, and I was genuinely convinced that something like hormone replacement therapy would be beneficial, I would do it. But
Yeah.
it wouldn't be for the reasons of building more muscle necessarily. It would be the
Hmm.
reasons for quality of life.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, but I wanted to explain that context because just to kind of go back to that post, like I'm not against anybody that's assisted, and this sounds like I'm not racist. All my best friends are blah blah, but like genuinely, most of my, I shouldn't say most because everybody that's associated with them, but
Mhm.
loads of my friends are assisted, and like
Right.
it doesn't bother me whatsoever. I'm not
Yeah.
like you say, I'm not. It's not a tribe for me
No,
where
no.
you're either enhanced or not.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just wanted to provide that context.
Yeah, some great points. And like you say, we've got more in common than not with guys who are assisted. We're all, I think bodybuilding, like I've said before, it attracts a certain personality type. And you're going to
Mm,
have that whether you're assisted or not.
yeah.
Going back to what you said before about like genetic limitations, obviously you've been training for a while now. How many years, Dean, you've been training?
Well, 20. Yeah, 20 years really.
Wow,
So
yeah. So a couple of decades. So how much do
yeah.
you think you've changed like your overall shape in terms of adding muscle? How much difference has that made? Like if you were to look back to your first
Mm,
show compared to your last season, let's say,
yeah.
how much do you think you kind of fought back against those genetic limitations?
Yeah, a lot to be fair.
Yeah.
I've always so my strong point is my chest, and
Hmm.
it's virtually only my chest. And I don't know
Right.
whether in judo you have a couple of holds like so you might be familiar with kezakatami, which is a scarf
Yeah.
hold.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've got certain holds where you're doing like a almost like a chest fly on one side of the other,
Uh-huh.
and then also when you're doing or like in a similar-ish position, and when you're doing the training for judo, it might not be as much nowadays, but it was like death by press ups. We had like
Right.
every
Right.
time we did something wrong, press ups, press ups, press ups.
Mm.
And to be fair, my dad was ex-military as well. So like
Hmm.
whenever if he was punishing us, sometimes he would punish us physically. I say punished.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Let me when we were doing like corrective training or whatever.
Mm.
He'd make us do like press ups and stuff. So like I don't know whether I think Cliff Wilson was speaking about this once on a Revive Stronger podcast where
Mm.
he was talking about how he's got like a really good tricep. And he
Hmm.
thinks it's because when he was younger, he played basketball. And in basketball, when you're shooting a shot, you're doing like a tricep extension
Right.
to throw the
Ah,
ball.
interesting.
So like I feel like my chest genetics maybe come down to a lot of like the judo experience and like say press ups and certain holds where you're doing a lot of like chest. It's like a lot of pusher movements.
Hmm.
As it, like you're very rarely when you throw someone, you're very rarely pulling them towards you, except for like, with the exception of a few throws. It's usually
Mm.
pushing them away from you. Anyway, um,
Interesting that. Yeah. Yeah.
so going back to it, I've always had a strong chest, and
Hmm.
really like when I look at my quads were okay, but when I look at how my physique's developed over time, like
Mm.
my arms, my shoulders, particularly my delts, like the cap, the like wide width of my delts, I should say.
Yeah.
Um, my back has really been. I still feel like it's a losing battle because my my insertions are like up here on my ribs,
Right.
so just trying to get that V taper, is like it's very difficult. But
Hmm.
last season, there's a couple of shots in a couple of shows last season where I can look at my physique and actually go, in the past, I feel like I look like somebody that had a couple of strong points, but wasn't like
Mm,
proportionally wasn't like didn't look like a bodybuilder. Whereas last season, I feel like I actually put it together a little bit, and I've got like a nice structure and balance to my physique.
hmm
Still working against, still in the context of having genetic like components there, but yeah, I feel like it's drastically changed in terms
mm,
of now I can present myself as a bodybuilder, whereas
hmm
before I was presenting myself as somebody who had a little bit of muscle, could get lean, but
hmm
no like structure or anything like that.
Yeah, that's some great points there. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, there are certain things you can do, I think, as well to to help out. I think sometimes putting the trunks up higher can help create a
Mm.
bit more balance, make the legs look longer, the back
Yeah,
look shorter, and leaning back as well can kind of almost shorten the back a little
yeah,
bit, I find. But yeah, I'm the same actually. I think my chest is my area where I've got like elite chest genetics. I think it's very very strong point, and I've
yeah.
only just started working it twice a week again because I think. Yeah, I actually want to make it freaky. I want to make it, really big and like Arnold-esque. But yeah, I
Yeah,
thought, so
yeah.
why not just go back to hitting it twice a week?
Well, I saw
Yeah,
I saw the post you put on the other day from your 2018-19 off season,
yeah, that was yeah.
17-18 off season,
Mm.
and yeah, your chest looked freaky, and
Yeah, it was massive then. Yeah, it was yeah, so
there is
I was doing a lot of bench pressing. Like I was hitting chest twice a week with a bit more
yeah,
volume than now, but yeah, like 3 plate benching for three-ish reps, but for
yeah,
sets, working sets, like 2.5 to 3 plates
yeah.
consistently. And
I
yeah, it was strong. Mm.
so I've not gone full circle yet, but I might do because like it's kind of like maturity to an extent, but also
Mm.
the temptation is always there to be like I'm like you know what, because at the minute I'm doing 6 sets of chest a week, once per week, kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
maintenance volume. Although I am progressing, so maybe not. But
hmm
but I'm like right, okay, I need to bring everything else in proportion. But
Mm.
now you said that, I think
Yeah.
I think I can
Yeah.
justify going. You know what? I may as well make the chest freaky. If I'm not gonna win in the other areas, I may as well have
Mm.
a good chest. But yeah,
Yeah, it's funny actually because it was looking back at those shots and then some others
yeah.
maybe a month or so ago that thought my chest was better then. It was bigger, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
because I was hitting it more. I was working it more. So yeah, it's annoying really. I think I wish there was more time in the day to train, but for me because I'm only
Yeah.
training 4 days a week at the moment,
Mhm.
but they're quite long sessions. They're 2 hours each.
Mhm.
Legs is fine, but I hit my entire upper body twice a week in those sessions, so it's pretty
Yeah.
full on. Um, just with trying to fit, I'm a busy dad and trying to fit it around like school pickups and drop-offs and that is challenging.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
sometimes wish there was more time. What's your training volume like, Dean?
It's on, I would say, a relatively lower side, moderate,
Okay.
like low to moderate, I would say.
Mm.
So 5 sessions a week,
Yeah.
upper lower push pull legs, and I'm doing about 14, averaging 12 to 14 sets per workout.
Yeah.
In fact, chest is lower. Chest is on like 6 sets per week.
hmm
Um, quads, hamstrings, and glutes kind of like if a brand knows together.
Mm.
It's fairly even across those muscle groups, and probably like 12, maybe like 12, 14 sets maybe total for those muscle groups each
hmm
roughly. And then primarily arms. To be honest, arms is volume which I might start increasing
hmm
because I do need to. In terms of my weaknesses, I need to try and create more width. So like
Yeah.
obviously shoulder width. So quite a lot of delt volume, side delt volume, a lot of volume for the back, particularly the lower lats and the erectors as well. I'm trying to bring up a little bit. But I've got some hip
Mm.
movements for those ones. And arms at the minute is a little bit low, only 10 sets on biceps triceps. But
Okay.
I
Yeah.
might increase that a little bit. But it's like as you kind of saying, it's difficult, especially for myself when I'm identifying that I've got to bring up everywhere but my chest. There's a trade off. It's difficult
Mm.
to try and like feel like you're optimizing for one area, and
hmm
the other area has to take a bit of a backseat.
It's true,
Um,
isn't it? Yeah. Well, that reminds me because I had this Finnish bodybuilder, a friend of mine, Uti, on recently. He's been on the podcast twice, and
mhm,
he's got quite an interesting way of training where he literally will spend, I think it's either 3 or 6 months
mm,
with certain body parts are literally just maintenance volume, so very, very low volume, and he'll prioritize everything else. And yeah, for me, with my kind of OCD mindset, I'd find it hard just to do like 2 or 3 sets a week of a certain body part.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, for him, that seems to be working,
But
working really well. His idea was that you can't make once you've been training a certain period of time, you can't make everything grow at
mhm,
once. You have to kind of just really focus on certain areas and then spend phases
yeah,
doing the opposite, which is quite interesting.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I could I've not experimented with it, but I could get behind that theory. I think a
Mm,
little bit. So certainly worth trialing. I think.
yeah, yeah. No, I think so. Talking about lessons, I think there are. bodybuilding is an interesting one because yeah, if you kind of you can zoom out and take a lot of lessons from bodybuilding. So for myself, like I think it's the delayed gratification aspect has improved like a lot of different areas of my life. Like it's made me a much better artist. Because yeah, like for those who don't know, I used to do, like commissioned artwork for people back in the
Mm,
day, and a bit less now because I've got less time. But there would be pieces where you'd have to spend maybe 10 hours just doing like an outline of like a person's face and
mm,
stuff there. So you'd have to, it would require a lot of patience. But I wasn't able to be a good artist until I really, did like my first stint of bodybuilding. So
yeah.
yeah, that's been the big one is that kind of delayed gratification aspect.
Mhm.
Hopefully, it's maybe like a more patient dad as well, but I don't know. My kids might disagree. What lessons do you think you've learned in terms of, yeah, what has bodybuilding taught you? Because you've been doing this a while.
Yeah, I'd agree with what you said. And to put my journey into a little bit of context, the first 10 years, I was doing other sports and things, and I wasn't like solely focused on bodybuilding. Whereas the last 10 years, I've been much more focused on bodybuilding,
Mm,
hypertrophy, as opposed to the others. Definitely the delayed gratification
mm,
and realizing realizing that there is, and this, I think we know this intuitively, and we should know this intuitively, but sometimes we need that lived experience to get it. But knowing and realizing and acknowledging, sorry, that there is a relationship between being committed, being consistent,
mm,
and putting in the adequate level, the right level of work. And
mm,
then if you do those things and you do that over time, you will eventually get a result. And
mm,
at least you're putting the chips in your favor to get that result. Whereas like when I was younger, and maybe similar to what you're saying, when I was younger, maybe I wouldn't delay gratification enough. Maybe I wouldn't. I'd try my hand at something, and if I didn't take to it straight away,
mm,
I wouldn't be persistent enough and consistent enough to actually get the results. And I
mm,
would, you can just think, you can kind of like rationalize it and be like, oh, it's just not for me. I'll move on to something else.
mm,
But I do think that that applies in, and I think bodybuilding has definitely taught me that, where it's not taught me in other areas of life, but it has translated to it in like work career, maybe not relationships, because like, you shouldn't be too persistent in a relationship if it's not
mm.
working, but but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
um, but like career generally speaking, with friendships, relationships, finances is another one. It's
Mm,
definitely helped my financial life, um, being more disciplined with money,
yeah.
delaying gratification for sure, in terms of like, rather than buying a big purchase, I'll go, right, okay, I'm going to sleep on that, and I'll wait.
Mm,
Or for example, rather than getting, especially nowadays, buying things on like a credit card or on credit or whatever it might be,
mm,
like going, instead of doing that, I'll actually save the money up for it. And then usually along that process, when I'm saving the money, if I'm saving money for something, I'll usually realize, actually, I don't want it as much as I thought, and then
yeah.
that money can be better suited elsewhere.
Mm,
Um, One, so that, speaking, like, expand on your point, where I've definitely had that experience as well. Another thing is, I'm I think we're somewhat similar here. Like OCD. I sometimes joke that my name's like OCD, but
right, right. Yeah.
realizing that. So if you've got like pillars of life, let's say, and so we're all going too deep here. Like say we've got seven pillars of life, which is like your health and fitness, maybe finances, your career, your relationships, your friendships, maybe like hobbies and interests, and maybe like your like religion or something similar, some sort of philosophy in that regard.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, because of the way my mind works, it used to always be, if I was focusing on a goal, I would have to optimize for that goal, and
Mm,
then everything else would have to fall by the wayside. It's
hmm.
like everything was in competition with each other, and
Right.
not like collaboration. Whereas now, what I try and do, and this is kind of to the point about the competing last year, and like when you go into a peak week in a less stressed environment, you actually perform better, because you're not like,
Mm,
for many reasons, you can manage those variables a bit better. But anyway, going back to it, the what I try and do now, like one really big lesson, and it's something I always, when I'm working with clients, I always try and address this, because I see it in a lot of clients, and I think once you've gone through something, you can see it in other people as well, which is
yeah, yeah.
definitely a good benefit.
So
Um,
true.
but I try and get to a point where all of those pillars will complement each other and not be in competition with each other. And then there's always going to be times when, maybe if you've got, for example, in a work capacity, if you've got like a big project on at work, other things need to take a back seat to an extent,
Mm,
but not to the extent where you just completely ignore them.
yeah.
And I've definitely had that situation when I started bodybuilding, 2014 to 17, and even up to 2020, to be honest. I was so pathological and like almost like orthorexic, with like
Right.
trying to like really optimize like meal timing,
Hmm.
macronutrient split, like all of these things. And for example, there was points where I had like in my career, I had like a really good job with a potentially really good job with a furniture manufacturer, which was local,
Yeah.
and I was really well thought of when he brought me into a company, and I could have progressed for I could have done fairly well in that company at that time. It's turned out okay, but
Yeah.
certainly. And for example, we had every year there was a massive furniture show at the NEC, and he used to pay £250,000 just for the stand that we had because it was the biggest stand in the whole show. Because
Right.
this manufacturer they made furniture for like M&S, Next, Marks and Spencers, like massive outlet. And my job was the customer liaison manager. So I was like managing the sales manager, not managing, but like the relationships between the sales managers, the customers, the factory, like
Hmm.
managing through like complex complaints, things like that. But
Yeah.
anyway, just as an example, during the furniture shows, I was that obsessed with like trying to like really perfect my nutrition and training.
Mhm.
Like when everyone was socializing in the evening, instead of going out for the meal out, I would go to like the 24-hour gym and like go and train in the evening.
Right. Right.
And like when you're having like meals during the day, I would like I'd have my own prepared meals rather than like going to like the local shop or something with them completely needlessly. But at the time, that's what I thought. I thought, right, okay, if I'm trying to optimize for bodybuilding, this is what it looks like. This is what
Yeah.
I've got to do. When and like it didn't really help me in any way, shape, or form with my bodybuilding endeavor, and
Mm.
it really was a detriment yeah, from like a career point of view as well. So
Yeah.
that's just one example, but there's plenty more like that.
That's an amazing example. I love that. I really do. And I think every bodybuilder has to make that mistake. They have to go through that journey of taking the OCD nature a bit too far to then
Yeah,
realize, you know what, I've gone too far there. I can relax a little bit. And I think,
yeah,
yeah, every successful bodybuilder has been there before. Because
hmm,
I was the same. You know, I can recall when I first got into lifting, I went on a trip with my parents to Paris back in like the year 2002, I think it was, and I was my first dieting phase, my first attempt at doing like a cut, and
yeah,
I was
yeah,
so rigid about I'd have to eat at a certain time. I was just moody. If we couldn't
yeah,
sit down
yeah,
and eat something, I was just moody for the entire time,
yeah,
and I made everyone else miserable as well.
hmm,
And there were quite a few instances like that as well. And yeah, now I'm completely the opposite. Like, even on prep last year,
hmm,
me and Sarah would go to restaurants. We ate out quite a lot during my contest prep.
hmm.
Um, yeah, because I've swung, I'd say nicely into the middle, on that
Yeah,
regard.
and I think speaking, hopefully not speaking for you here, but like you can kind of see how you can go both ways because I kind of did as well with the flexible
Mm,
dieting sense where
mm,
so you had that experience and I had the same thought like when I was younger when I first started looking into nutrition I literally thought if I don't eat every 3 hours muscle's
mhm.
going to fall off.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need to eat protein every 3 hours,
yeah.
and then I took it to the other end and kind of alluding to what you said before about the flexible dieting point of view. So
Mm,
I think because you have such a negative experience in one area,
mhm.
you go completely the opposite then
Mm.
with flexible dieting. So, but yeah, I just want to bring that up. Yeah,
Yeah, so true. Yeah, good point. And yeah, you have to make your own mistakes. I think you really do. It doesn't.
mhm,
I think that's the biggest teacher. The biggest teacher is making your own mistakes and then learning from them more than
yeah,
anything else. Yeah, great
yeah.
point. When do you think you'll be back on stage, Dean? When's the plan?
So 20, because I know the value of having a return to stage because it gives you that urgency
Yeah,
to step back on stage. Because otherwise, if you say I'm just going to return when I'm better type thing, which is fair, but
yeah.
so 2027 is when I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
But equally, 2029 I'll be 40.
Yeah.
So I'm half tempted. To be honest, I'm tempted to do 27 and 29.
Hmm.
But if I'm going to see, I'm going to do a dieting phase, get down to about 85 kg. So I'm about 92, 93 right now.
Yeah.
Get down to about 85 kg, see how I'm looking. And that would be like a diet before the diet, if like at
Yeah.
some point towards the end of this year into next year.
Hmm.
And then if I feel like I've made enough improvements and I can continue to make enough improvements in that 2026 year to then compete 2027, I might do 2027.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
not, I'll be with you in the over
Yeah.
40s in
Yeah.
2029.
Yeah. Well, I might see you up there. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, 'cause you've been doing this well, and it's clear your physique has definitely come a long way.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah, my aim is next year. So
Next
yeah,
year, yeah, yeah.
2026 is my yeah. I spoke with Sarah, and yeah, well, next year is the aim. But I'm actually going to do. Obviously, you did a lot of shows last year. I did quite a
Mhm,
few. I'm just going to focus on yeah the BMBF route is my plan next year.
mhm.
BMBF DFAC route. Yeah, to try and reach that top spot.
And are you doing over 40s again?
Yeah, yeah, I'll do masters again. I thought about dipping my toes back in open, and I might do at some stage, but I want to, yeah, try and reach the highest level of that I can in the Masters division first, and then yeah, I might go back to open at some stage.
Did you see the WNBF on the last weekend?
I did, yeah, saw the
It
competitors. Yep.
it seems like so on the Saturday they
Hmm.
gave out a couple of pro cards to the novice and the Masters winner.
Mm.
So that just in the back of mind, like that could be a good route for you as well
Yeah,
potentially.
I've thought about that. I've got I must admit I've got a soft spot for the BNBF. That's kind of where it all began for
Yeah, yeah,
me, and
yeah,
I'm a
right.
big fan of that federation.
I,
And it's not like I'm pro card hunting at all. That's the thing. 'Cause
I,
if I'd love the DFAC Masters DFAC pro card is the aim, and yeah, if I can get a WNBF Masters pro card, that'd be good too. But yeah,
I'll just share something about not the politics of bodybuilding or
yeah,
whatever, but
yeah.
the BNBF. I, I feel like they not necessarily no. This isn't a personal thing. Not necessarily that I don't like my physique, but I never do well with a BNBF.
Right,
I finished. I did Body Power 2017. I got second in the middleweight event. That's the best I've done with BNBF. But like last season, and to be fair, the guys were better than me. But last season,
right, right.
I got fourth, but
Hmm.
we didn't give me an invite to the finals. So like,
Right,
but this is also I'm trying to channel it in a good way where I'm like, because I want to compete with the BNBF again. I'm going to compete with the BNBF again, and I'm
yeah,
like, I know I really need to improve to like satisfy them
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. But I
yes,
think I think they're probably like again not going to anything in detail here, but I think they're probably the best federation in the UK in my
Mm,
opinion.
I'm a fan. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
something very, I don't know, very wholesome about the way they do
yeah,
things. Because I competed in 2015 and back again, and there's something quite nostalgic about going to their shows, and everything's kind of still the same as it was. Obviously, natural
yeah.
bodybuilding is so much bigger now, and you go to these other federations, and it's clear to see natural bodybuilding's grown.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, there's something about those. The fact they do the pre-judging, they do the evening show, they put on such a good
Yeah,
spectacle. I'm a big
yeah.
fan of the MBF.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah, who knows? We might meet on stage at some
Well,
point. That'd be cool.
yeah, I'll be losing, but yeah,
No, 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 no. Well, look, Dean, this has been amazing. We're coming to the end of the hour. I have to get you on again because this has been a lot of fun. But yeah, like we always do, we're gonna do quick fire questions next. So I've changed these recently,
Hmm.
but they're still the same as they were. So yeah, favorite film, Dean. What's that gonna be?
We'll go with Naked Gun. No, is it Naked Gun? Is that what it's called? Leslie Nielsen.
Oh,
Uh,
the old school one. Okay, yeah,
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 number one. I was going to say I really like Airplane as well. Um,
yeah, yeah.
I,
Classics.
that's my favorite comedy. If I went for a serious film, I quite like. Have you ever seen it? John Q with Denzel Washington.
I haven't actually. No, no.
I mean, I'll throw one more. Lord of the Rings. I think the Fellowship of the Ring as well. But anyway, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Interesting. Yeah, I have seen Naked Gun, not in a long, long time. The
It's on
remake looks quite
Netflix.
fun. Is it
Yeah,
on?
I'm not,
Is it
I'm
on
not getting
Netflix?
royalties for it, but it's on Netflix if you want
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Good. Yeah. Good choices there. What are your hobbies outside of bodybuilding?
to. Nowadays, I don't feel like we've got any, but I would say I'm a Man United fan, football wise. So following United, but obviously we're not doing very well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't really. It feels strange now because, like I said before, I used to play, and I had a comeback season in field hockey in 2023. So like field hockey, football, judo, I might get back to it. I look at my judo belts literally on the shelf there,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
those would be my hobbies outside of bodybuilding. But right now, I'm not doing them. I'm concentrating on training. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. No. Fair enough. No, that's cool. Last question. What piece of advice would you give to your younger self? Deep, deep question now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's quick fire, which is not good for me because I'm not a quick
And
answer
that's
on things.
also not a quick fire question. I don't know why I
Yeah.
say quick fire. That's
No,
a
no, 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 no.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to say, hindsight, hindsight. With hindsight, I could obviously say go through all the mistakes I made and say don't make that mistake, don't make that mistake, don't make that mistake. But I think what you said before is very true. But you've got to go through those mistakes to learn the lesson.
Mhm.
And I think even if you could avoid doing that mistake, you won't be the person. You won't get the character development things that
Mm.
you've had without going through it. So pushing that one aside, I think that's a very important, like, because again, like it is really easy to look at things and say, I wish I didn't do that. But again, it does teach you a lesson. So
Mm.
I think for me, it would just be, and I think we're all like this as nature, not to be as like self-critical of yourself and to like believe in yourself a bit more, have more
Mm.
confidence, and not that I've reached any great heights right now as a person or as a physique, But certainly when I first started lifting, if I could take what I've achieved up to now and like be the person I am now, I definitely would
Mm.
have taken it. So yeah, just to kind of trust in yourself a bit more, believe in yourself a bit more, and stop criticizing yourself.
Yeah, no, great
Yeah.
answer. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
no, that's a good one there. Well, look, Dean, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, we'll have to do another one of these at some point.
Yeah,
And,
anytime, definitely. I've
yeah,
enjoyed it.
no, this is a lot of fun. And yeah, thank you guys for watching and for listening. And we will see you next time. Cheers.
Adios.